All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Y'all sound tired. Sophia, it's on. Okay.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sophia. I'm looking for your paper right now. What happened to your paper? Oh, I see it. My finger was right on it. Okay. Everyone can hear me? Yes?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, so I got quite a bit of drafts. Let me see how I can put this gently. One, I don't think you've done enough research on A1. If you have done research, a lot of research on it, you have not articulated it properly. I'm gonna go, let me go through. Let me give you some comments on what you drafted, and then let me tell you what's the common theme that I'm saying from all of these drafts that I received. So if I start with Sophie. Sophie, you said at the top of your paper, you're answering question A2. Are you really answering A2 or are you answering A1?
I thought it was A2, but
Is A2?
yeah, that's A2.
So A2 is asking you about the factors for a specific firm. So you say in the banking sector, but you have to write making reference to an actual firm.
Oh,
Company ABC, company LMN, whatever it is, in the banking sector,
okay, okay.
right?
Mhm.
And what would make it even clearer to the examiner if you state the type of bank that you are,
Okay,
okay? The services that you offer. Now, remember what I said, you have to make sure when you write, you have to write in AML language. You have your paper in front of you?
give me a second. Okay, yeah, I have it.
Okay, all right, so go down to the fourth sentence, the first word, materialize, no, that's not AML language. The next word on the fifth line, customize, that is not AML language. The framework is not done in accordance with the regulator. That's not AML language,
Okay,
okay? The second paragraph, your last sentence, where you say both regulators regarding factors that taken into consideration, that sentence is incomplete.
okay,
All right. So now I see you list your factors. And what the examiner want is you're talking about a particular firm. So you should be able to give some kind of example,
okay,
right? And
yeah.
so, right. So one thing asks about the factors, and then the next part asks about the process. So you haven't added the process in here as yet.
No, not yet.
Okay, all right. So other than that, you
Mhm.
just need to write about a specific
Firm and
company
mhm,
in that, right,
and provide more examples.
right.
Okay,
Now, when I go to these others that now referring to A1, one thing I need to tell you all is whatever you write in A1 flows right into A2. Because A1 is giving that general information about our national risk assessment. And then A2 talks about a specific firm and the factors. So that even though it's A1 and A2, the information flows. A1 can't contradict A2.
I have a question. When you say a specific firm, so if let's say I use RBC, are you expecting me to say RBC?
No.
Or I can just say
Company.
Bank A.
Bank A, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let me go to the next one, which is he on? Dinero, is he on? I don't see him here. Dinero isn't on. Dinero in his draft, he's addressing A1. The first paragraph is not necessary. And paragraph 1 doesn't connect with paragraph 2. He gives a bit of a history on the NRA. He gives the identified risk, and then he stops. So he hasn't really answered the questions yet, so I can't give him any more comments on that. Donna, is Donna on? Donna draft was okay. What she needs to do actually is to answer the question directly, which means that she needs to tighten up her language. She did miss some steps in the process for the NRA. She also has to watch language, words, self-managed perceived risk. I don't know what that is. And yeah, she's missing a common thing I see in all papers, which I'll tell you about that at the end, after I finish looking at a lot. Felicia, I'm sorry to say, you have to start all over. That what you've written doesn't answer the question at all. Alicia Butler. This was just a draft of A1. And again, the answer is no, you're not answering the question. Did I do Donna? Yes, I did Donna.
Yeah, you did, Donna.
I did Donna. Brittany?
I'm on Miss Archer.
Yeah, I'm looking at your paper with my notes. No. You need to take what you've written, Brittany,
Yes, ma'am.
and you need to answer the question.
Okay.
You all are like for a first draft, you have information here,
Yes, ma'am.
but you actually need to answer the question.
The question itself.
Okay, we're gonna go over the question again.
Okay.
But you're missing it. And who is ISIL? ISIL. That was the name that was on the email. Well, whoever ISIL, this is Bakan, BAKAN. But they have to start all over again. It doesn't answer the question at all. So let's start again. The question gives you a quote from recommendation 1. And it says, countries should identify, assess, and understand the money laundering and terrorist financing risk for the country, that's the Bahamas, and should take action, including designating an authority or mechanism to coordinate actions, to assess risk and apply resources aimed at ensuring the risks are mitigated effectively. What does that mean to you? What should you be writing about? Because the first part of A1 says in the context of that statement. What does that mean? That first statement.
It's recommending the type of policies that countries ought to implement. Sorry, how to frame the policy.
Yes. What else? Come on now, I'm not saying everything that you all wrote was wrong. I'm saying you're not answering the question. So you can still look at your papers and try to know what exactly that quotation, what is it that the examiner is looking for?
That you understand how countries ought to formulate policies, what the policies ought to include. Um, how your policies should include certain authorities. Or bodies. Like it's a recommendation, so that the recommendation is that the country, in order to guard against or mitigate AML issues or terrorist financing issues, we recommend that you do these things.
Mhm.
That's what the statement is saying.
Okay, and so in
It- oh.
AML terms, what are they recommending that you do?
Is it that you should look at what affects your first of all, what affects your country, and ensure that your country is at first be able to enhance and deepen the awareness of the risks that affects the country at large first, and then go in depth with the sector?
Yes, worded a little bit better for those that I said no to completely, when I said they have to start over.
So it's more so like enhancing and deepening awareness, basically fully understanding, and then using laws and regulations apply like guidance and put it into practice.
That's the end part. So,
Lord.
right, no, you're not, you're just missing steps. So what the FATF is recommending is that every country must conduct a risk assessment of the country itself, looking at all of the sectors, identify the risk in the sectors, assess it, determine what is high risk overall in your jurisdiction. And then based on that, you make the necessary changes in your framework.
So
Go ahead.
for example, I was reading that one of the things that they picked up in the National Risk Assessment for the Bahamas was that they didn't focus enough on the financial sector and the DFNP. They did the assessment, but this assessment did not really give what the real risks are in those in each and every sector individually, and that was one of the downfalls of the assessment. And so they had an issue with that, and that is why they had to go back to the drawing board and then request another assessment of, well, I guess, well, not
Yes.
assessment, yeah, request another time for the FATF to come and say, okay, well, please come back, this is what we've done to improve based on what you said. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Yes, because you have to include all sectors. And then it says, designate an authority or mechanism. What is that authority or mechanism that coordinate the actions to assess the risk?
So I'm thinking basically who's the competent authority responsible for handling it at the country at large first, as a country at large first.
At the country
And-
level, yes, who is that?
Ministry of Finance, I assume.
It would
Ministry of
fall
Finance
underneath there, but it has a name in
or-
legislation. You covered this already in the first part of your
Would it
mind.
be Office of Attorney General?
No,
Is it the steering committee?
yes, it is.
The IRC?
The steering
Or-
committee,
The
no, the
steering
steering
committee.
committee.
Oh.
We have a national steering committee.
Mhm.
That's the authority or the mechanism to coordinate the actions.
But aren't they a part? So the steering committee is basically a group of senior officials from various regulators, but aren't they spearheaded by the Office of Attorney General? Because they're led by the Attorney General at large, right?
It is led by,
So that's what I'm saying. If it's led by the Attorney
but
General, it would be under.
yeah, but there
Okay.
is someone appointed that
Mhm.
chairs that group. And she speaks at a lot of functions. There is a coordinator.
Is that Tanya McCartney?
No,
Karen Rule.
no. Cassandra Nordich.
Oh wow.
Yes. And then it says, what it says after that, it says, and apply resources aimed at ensuring the risks are mitigated.
But Ms. Archer, I'm not trying to be too forward or anything. Isn't she isn't she acting as an advisor under the Ministry of Finance though?
Yeah,
So I mean, okay, never mind.
yeah, just forget that part. Let's focus on the role that they play when they stand up. So they saying that's what they said that a country should do. So now they say, based on that assessment, based on your NRA, countries should apply a risk-based approach to ensure that the measures to prevent or mitigate money laundering are commensurate with the risks identified. So you should, before you start even answer A1, you're supposed to know the risks that are being identified related to money laundering. That's your whole premise. That's your background information before you answer the question. So now the question says, in the context of recommendation, the statement in recommendation 1. So whatever you write after that comma, after 1, has to be based on what you have gathered from looking at recommendation 1. What did the Bahamas do? How did it do it? What were the findings? How did they implement it? What difficulties were they faced with? What were the benefits of doing it? What did they learn from it? That's what A1 is asking you. Because see, it says
Ms. Archer, question relative to the part of the recommendation that referred to I was reading and it
You're
had
breaking up,
stated
you're breaking up.
oh, hello, can you hear me now?
A little bit, go ahead. Patricia.
Hi,
Oh, where did she go?
she dropped off.
Oh, she dropped off. Yeah, because she's going in and out. Yeah, she didn't come back on. So you understand now what the examiner is looking for. Is it becoming clearer?
Ms. Archer, can you give a recap of what A1 again for me, please?
Okay. So what A1 is asking you is, recommendation 1 requires a country to do a national risk assessment. And based on that risk assessment, that country would identify its risk, assess it, look at what resources it needs to implement it, and make sure that the risks are mitigated, which means that it goes out to each sector after the national risk assessment. They disseminate that information to the various regulators or overseeing bodies of each sector, making sure that they have the right resources in place and the right structure in place to carry out a risk-based approach based on the results of the national risk assessment. So A1 is saying that in the context of everything that we did to comply with recommendation 1, they want you to explain the benefits and the challenges associated with implementing that as a risk-based approach. So this is at a country level. Now, some people do have some good benefits and challenges, but you have to tie it into a national risk assessment. Because A2 is then telling you now to talk about the factors and the process from an individual firm from one of those sectors. So when they say in the context of recommendation 1, they want you to summarize what did we do from a national risk assessment perspective in terms of identifying the mechanism or the authority to get it done. What resources were put in place, and some people have the resources in their papers that were put in place in order to make sure that a risk-based approach was carried out in accordance with the results from the national risk assessment. So you have to say in A1, what was the result of the national risk assessment? Because when you go to A2, when you talk about your factors and your process, you have to refer to the risks that were identified that the regulator now needs you to mitigate against. So they go together.
Ms. Arch, I'm sorry I got disconnected.
Yes.
I had a question relative to resources. I was a little uncertain.
Mhm.
I was a little uncertain, like in my reading or my research about resources. I had read in a summary. I may be far off because, like I said, I was confused when it came to this.
Go ahead.
They had mentioned that one of the resources used by the NRA was not to use the same word again, but in essence, the resources used by the law enforcement agencies in the Bahamas in an attempt to identify, assess, and mitigate the money laundering and terrorist financing. Am I along the right path or am I far off, like as it relates to the resources? Like, is there something specific or do I don't know if you understand my question.
I understand your question.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to, the results of the national risk assessment was disseminated. Now, remember now, the national risk assessment was done on every sector in the Bahamas. You agree? It was on gaming,
Yes.
banking, lending, securities, whatever else,
Right.
lawyers, real estate, brokers, every sector.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. So from a national risk assessment, resources can include the assistance that they needed to get the risk assessments completed, but it also include what the regulators had to do in order to assist its constituents.
Oh, okay. So I think I have that too. Like, okay, so like the surveys, etc.
So I think
You could mention that one of the challenges could have been in terms of getting information from the constituents to complete the risk assessment, because a lot of institutions did not have statistical information. A lot of them are manual, they're not automated. That's another challenge for implementing a risk-based approach. Everybody is not at the same level. But more than that, in resources, those regulators had to change their structure in order to implement this risk-based approach? What do they do? What do the regulators do?
So for let me see if I have a brief synopsis for the banking sector. I know one of the risks at a national level was for the high level of cross-border and for private and trust companies, private bank and trust companies. And so as central bank as the regulator, they would have established analytical units to encourage
Yes.
more ongoing vigilance.
Mhm.
They also changed the supervisory framework, their regulatory framework, and they devised and implemented a risk-based program just to be able to capture or be able to adapt to the new trends that they have as we change environments I guess be more flexible to look at new, I think topologies is the word. I think that's
Yes,
topology.
typologies, yes, and that is what the examiner is looking for.
Okay.
That's what they're looking for. So they want you to talk about the benefits and the challenges in implementing that. What are the challenges and the benefits? I just gave you one. That's why they keep doing a lot of surveys. That's how they're trying to keep up to date. They keep they're sending survey after survey after survey because sometimes the responses don't match up.
Well, I think one of the benefits of it would be a more proactive stance as opposed to reactive.
Yes.
It allows you, by identifying, allows you to be able to capture or detect early signs of any sort of risk and be able to implement measures to control it as soon as possible. And that could help lower compliance, future compliance costs, like lawsuits and I guess unwanted headlines or stuff like that, or something that could that could be a detriment to your to your reputation as a company whole. Okay.
And you're also looking at emerging risks that can come up, things that they did not take into consideration. And that's why the regulators now are just so close to its registrants or licensees. Because that's the only way they can know what is happening and what is changing. So
yeah.
What can give you an even better edge on other students who are answering the same question is, as we begin that journey into the digital arena, you now have to think about the risk-based approach and the process and how that will be changing. And that's how you end your paper to the examiner, showing the examiner that, yes, I know this is what we did on a national level. This is what we did on a firm level. And now we face the challenges of changing all of our traditional way of doing banking to now move into the digital asset space.
I think one of the challenge. Okay, I'm not sure, but I think one of the challenges would probably be like how you just talk about the digital aspect of it. I guess cybersecurity. That could contribute to fraud and stuff. So you have to make sure have a good, I guess, risk-based approach to I guess mitigate that.
Yes, you have to have controls in place and controls that change with technology. And there's something else I wanted to point out. Let me see if there's anything else in this number one. Make sure when you write your summary of recommendation one, you identify to the examiner what the NRA said were the higher risk. Because you don't want to talk about benefits and challenges and implementation of a risk-based approach focusing on low risk matters or low risk benefits or challenges. You want to steer the examiner towards the higher risk, the things that would really pose a challenge to the regulator and also to the National Steering Committee. So everybody is clear now.
I think sometimes the challenge comes about when you start writing it, like putting it into, and then having to use the AML language is, I guess, sometimes can be a challenge.
Right, but that's why I said from the first class, I need you all to start writing now. Because you can write and write and write, and sometimes, like I told you from the first class, sometimes students don't get it until the 5th or the 6th paper, because I can't write the paper for you. You have to write it. And you only can write it if you keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. Because what you don't want to do is fail the paper. Then you're gonna have to write another paper, and that paper will be totally different. And at that time, you'd be on your own, because you will not be in the class setting.
Hi, Ms.
Go ahead.
Ms. Arnold. I'm sorry, I was a little late. I had a dental appointment with my kids that went over. So I just logging on and trying to catch up. I did submit the first draft to you, but I didn't get a response. I'd also sent an email.
I did talk about your paper, Donna.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. No. I said, you need to answer the question directly. You have good information here, but you need to tighten it.
Okay.
Okay, and watch your language. On your second page is 1, 2, 3, 5th line, you have a phrase like to a certain degree. Examiners don't like those little phrases. Stop tacking these little Bahamian vernaculars onto the sentences. They don't like those.
Okay.
In the second paragraph on the second page, you spoke about can self-manage perceived risk. I don't know what that is. So
Say it
again,
again,
it's
sorry.
language.
Can self-manage.
Yeah, that's what you have here. Self-manage. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
And then in that same first paragraph on the second page, you miss a step because you didn't speak about the national, the steering committee, but then you went into the regulators. Because like I was saying just now, the recommendation speaks to the authority who coordinates all of this and puts it together. So you have the information here. You just need to answer the question and tighten that up, watch your language, and redraft it and move on to A2.
Okay.
And what was missing also was the impact on the supervisory. I think you have some of it here, but just make sure you actually spoke about resources, which is the impact on the supervisory authorities and what they had to do to implement this risk-based approach. Because then that ties into your challenges and your benefits.
Okay. All right.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first draft, and like I said, I wasn't well during the time I was writing it, so I figured you would have come up with
okay, all right.
some comments.
Okay.
But thank you so much.
Yeah. Is this person on as yet? This person, ISIL, Isel? No? Okay, I don't know who that is. I don't know that one. So what are you going to do for me for next class? What drafts can I expect? A2? Because I got one A2.
Yes, I'm working on A2. It's just that I'm a little behind, like work demands and just leaving out sick for an entire week. And the work demands has increased. So I'm working on A2 right now.
Okay, all right. But even if well, A2 is asking you for factors and then asking about process. So even if you want to start by just sending in your factors, and then the following week you can send in your process, and then we're going to move into B, which is the culture.
Okay.
But I want you to, I'm trying to show you all not the language. You have to be very careful with the language. And how to tighten your answers so you're answering the question. You don't want to give the examiner 700 or 900 words, and out of all of those words, only 300 mean anything. Because it's not about trying to stretch words for the word count. It's what you put in your answer.
Question, Ms. Archer. In my intro, then I know I had touched on some of the events or timelines of what happened in the Bahamas in terms of the NRA from 2017 to present. So maybe I put too much of that in and I take some of that out.
Yeah, once you finish your word count, I try not to tell you I'll tell you take out when it's not relevant at all. You have it here. I'd say leave it here until you finish it. When you finish it, then you check your word count. And then based on your word count, if you tell me you're 1A, you put the word count at the top and say, let's say it's 200 words over. I'll be able to tell exactly what to take out.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't want you to take it out, then you don't have it anymore, and you find out you need it.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. But it is too long. But that intro. But finish it first.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Archer, this is Estelle. Did you get my paper?
No. Did I? Hold on. I think I did. Yes, I did. I didn't mention UA. Did I?
Not yet.
Okay. You sent me one sheet.
I think I sent it like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that.
I got it. Your first sentence, if you want to start off your paper making that statement, you have to qualify it. You can't make such a broad assertion without qualifying it. You remember what you wrote? Estelle, you have it in front of you? Estelle. Did Estelle drop off?
Yes, ma'am. No, I had it on mute. Sorry.
Oh, you have it in front of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the first sentence you made, you'll have to qualify that.
Okay.
The second sentence, I would not say that.
Okay.
Third sentence, I wouldn't say that either. Fourth one is not necessary. So let's go where you start with recommendation 1. That paragraph is okay.
Not even the little second paragraph?
Although?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Okay.
The third one where you start with recommendation, that is okay. So you need to find a different way to introduce this, but not that. You're answering 8-1?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have not answered the question.
Yet.
No, you've not answered it yet. You have to speak about recommendation 1 from the Bahamas perspective.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
Right?
Yes,
all the
ma'am.
things that I've been saying for the night. You have to talk about that.
Okay, what about the bullet points?
I'm about to come to you right to that right now, because I want to know what these bullet points are about. You have here your benefits. Yeah, the benefits aren't too bad.
So I can just add to those points.
Yeah, so let me see. I'm looking at challenges.
Okay.
Okay, those can stay, but you're gonna have to explain them.
Okay.
Yeah, and not in bullet item.
No.
Okay,
I just put bullet to say if I'm actually going in the right direction and I
Yeah.
can build on those, like I mentioned at the bottom.
I see your last point.
But I have to work on my introduction.
You have to work on your introduction before you
Or
get
just-
into your benefits and your challenges.
Or just take out the whole thing and just start from where it says recommendation and just get into it.
No, you need an introduction
I
before
need
that.
an intro.
The paragraph you have recommendation is nothing wrong with it, but you can't write it like this.
Okay.
What I'm trying to get you all to do before you all write assignment 3, which is the final one, is I want you to be able to answer a question showing to the examiner that you know this subject, that you're confident with the material, that you know this jurisdiction, you know what the regulators have done, and you can also compare it with similar jurisdictions like the Bahamas.
Mm.
When you could command your writing like that, you can get a high score. If you can't write it like that, that's when the examiner starts knocking you down. He could tell the confidence and the way in which you write. And remember, these people are marking papers from the Bahamas, Singapore, Malaysia, all over the world. So when you write it, you have to write your best, because at the end of this, remember what I said, the first class, you then become an AML professional, an international designation, which means you should be able to sit anywhere and do any type of AML work without looking at this book. You have to know where to go to find what you need. And the writing is the key to a lot of this, and understanding AML. Any more questions? Now is the time. A1 and A2. Everyone feel more comfortable now?
Miss Asha, do you have any extended knowledge about the MALAT, the ML, ATS, the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaties, and then the tax agreements, like what the Bahamas had signed to I guess help mitigate the money laundering issue here as a country. I read it in a national risk assessment thing, and I was like, I'm just trying to gain more information on that. Do you have any?
You mean on
Just a little.
MLAT?
Yes,
That should be on the internet, you know.
because I'm only seeing where I only came across where I think it was Ministry of Finance. They had entered into agreements with them and other legislations just for supervisory enforcement purposes. that's just to help fight it at a national level. But
Mhm.
I don't know, like, I'm not sure. Let me not say I don't know. I am not sure if that is applicable to the sectors or if that's necessary, or that is that necessary to be included in this assignment.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
makes
you
sense.
can, don't go too deep into it.
Okay.
You could mention it, but don't go too deep. Any other comments?
Miss Archer, with my draft of A1, I just need to start over completely.
Yes.
Okay.
You have it in front of you, you see why?
Yes, ma'am. I have it.
Okay. But you understand why now?
Listening to what we just said, I think I understand why.
Okay, all right. What I want you all to understand too is, remember what I said at the first time we started looking at the question at A1. There's some keywords. First one is context. So context means that you are referring to that same recommendation one quotation. They're saying in the context of that statement. So in the context means, what did we do? What does that mean? And we just went through all of that, what that means. So context is the key word for A1. The second one is explain. So that means that whatever benefits you list, you have to explain that to the examiner. Why is it a benefit? And challenges, again, is the same thing. But the key word after that is implementation. So the benefits and the challenges have to refer to implementation of a risk-based approach. And we've already said that from the quotation, we're talking about from a national risk assessment down to the regulators. And then in A2 say what factors, which is a keyword, should be taken into account in applying another keyword, and process, and the other word is followed, and again in applying. So A2 is talking about applying a risk-based approach in an actual firm. So it's a continuation from A1. You're going to talk about the factors and you're going to talk about the process. And when they say firm, it's a bank, an insurance company, a lending company, a securities company, an investment company, a trust company. That's what they're looking for. And that builds from A1.
Ms. Archer, you think there's a limit in terms of how much benefits and challenges you could talk about, considering the word limit?
Do write whatever benefits that comes to your mind, and then look at the benefits in relation to the weight of the risk. Because you may write a benefit that really is on a scale of 1 to 10 may only be worth 2. So, oh, can someone email me 3? Because I want to pass it on to the next lecturer for you, so they could be prepared for you all for the last assignment. Thank you very much. All right. So who else need more guidance? Anybody? Make sure now, be clear.
So, Ms. I have another question. When it
Go
comes
ahead.
down to question A2, when we in our introduction we speak about the specific firm, so I guess we give them background information and say that what is it, what type of business they deal with, and should we identify with the risk they pose, but as well right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. Somebody has music on. Is that who's that?
Sorry, go again. I didn't hear it.
No, I'm saying yes, you can identify the risk in your firm. Because you're going to talk about factors and you can talk about process. So when you're talking about the process, of course, you're going to talk about the risk. I know it seems difficult to write it, but it's learning.
Ms. Archer, for
Yes.
question A1, can you start an introduction with almost like with a case study or example? Or you shouldn't?
Case study example of what country?
The Bahamas.
You want to give me an example? What do you mean?
Mm,
Write it down and send it and put it in a bracket.
and see if it ties in.
Yes.
Okay.
Put it there, put it in a bracket, and then you can continue with the answer. I'll tell you yes or no.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. That's the best way to deal with that.
Ms. Archer,
Mhm.
Ezel Bakan. She's currently in hospital, so she just sent a note.
Oh,
She's currently undergoing an operation.
oh Lord.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Tell her we'll pray for her. If she thinks she's not going to be able to meet the deadline for the assignment, she need to let Ms. Stan know. Because she's gonna have to send an email and ask for an extension. All right, so who read chapter 9? I did. Sophie, did you read chapter 9?
Not at all, in the process.
Who read chapter 9? Nobody did?
Not yet.
Oh my God. You must read the chapters. Okay. How many more chapters we have to read? We stop at 11 or 12? We stop at 12, right?
I think we stop at 11.
We stopping at 11?
Yeah,
All right,
so I
David.
think we only have 2 more to go.
Okay. So, because what I wanted to do was to see if you understood Unit 9 by looking at the task at the back of the chapter. But you haven't read it. So can we do 9 and 10 next week?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so.
9
We
and
can
10.
be prepared. Yeah, we can be prepared next week.
Yeah, and look at the task at the back. So after next week's class, then we're gonna focus on B. That sounds like a plan?
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah, provided we have unlimited attempts to send in drafts.
But hold on, let's stop right there. What is unlimited attempts? You think this is at the carnival? Unlimited attempts?
I'm only playing.
No, okay, so you're gonna try A2, correct? If you
Yes,
have
ma'am.
sufficient time, those who have to rewrite A1 can send in their A1 with their A2. So you have this week to do that. And then we're gonna focus on the next part, on culture. And culture is chapter 11. Which you can see is very, very short, but you have 40 points. So how does that sound? Good?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And try not to send me your drafts on the day when we have class, please. On the weekends, try to put something together, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe. But don't send it on Thursday because it don't give me sufficient time to look at it and provide more comments. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have a plan. Next week, 9 and 10, we look at the task at the back. And I will be expecting some more redrafts of A1 and added to that A2. First draft for some. Second draft for one person. All right?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So get started. Start tickety, tickety, tickety. Start typing. Start typing fast. And remember, I noticed there aren't a lot of footnotes on some of these papers. Remember, I told you have to refer to FATF documents or Wolfsburg documents. There are lots of risk-based documents in the manual itself. You have to show the examiner that you're well-read. So I know you think it's a lot, it's overwhelming, but you should have been reading them all along. From the first time you open up this manual, you should have been reading those footnotes. Pulling those documents and reading them. They're not there for pretty, I'll tell you that now. It deepens your knowledge of AML if you read those. Okay, class? Come on, I getting y'all to be in class. Let's go.
Ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
class?
Yes.
Okay, so start working. The harder you push, then you will see.
Ma'am.
Sophie, you have a question?
No, no question.
Okay. Brittany?
No questions right now, Ms. Archer.
Okay, all
If
right.
I come across any, is it be okay if I email?
Yeah, man, you can.
Okay.
Okay. That's not a problem. That's not a problem. And if you, let's say you rewrite your A1 tonight or tomorrow, you can send it. If you send it early on the weekend, I can look at it and send it back to you.
Okay.
but you have to put the effort in it in order, you know, to get a good grade. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I will be checking my emails.
Hi, Ms. Archer.
Yes, my dear Alicia.
I came in late, but I assume that you didn't have an opportunity to read the first draft, so I guess you'll email me any comments you have.
Which voice draft are you talking about?
The very first one we were supposed to send.
Hold on.
One.
Not call your name.
Hmm?
Hold on. Brittany, Estelle, Donna, Austin, Sophia. Yes, I already talked with you.
I know, but I wasn't here, so.
Yes, I spoke about you. Okay, so let me tell you about your draft, which I missed and printed twice. You give a lots of definition. Okay, I don't know what the first paragraph is about. I don't know what the second one is about. The third one, no.
That don't sound too good.
You're not answering the question.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not answering the question. You joined while we were talking about how to question.
Pardon me?
You were listening and you were talking about how to approach the question.
Today?
Yeah.
No, I joined a little late today.
So when you look at the question is sending you in a particular direction. And you first have to understand, you have to read and understand what the Bahamas did in terms of meeting the requirement of recommendation 1. Which means you have to read about the National Risk Assessment, how it was conducted, what were the findings, who was a part of it, who was in charge of it. That's your background to answering A1. And notice I said background.
Right.
Then you come to the question. The question says, in the context of that
Recommendation. Okay.
So in that context means all of that background information that you have. They want you to explain the benefits and the challenges in implementing that risk-based approach that the Bahamas came up with. So you're going to talk about the National Risk Assessment. You're going to talk about the mechanism they put in place to get it done. You're going to talk about the findings. You're going to talk about the resources. And now you're going to talk about the benefits and the challenges in implementing that.
Correct. Okay.
And then A2 says, which is a continuation from A1, is they want you to select a particular firm, a company, make-believe company, or company where you work, give it a fictitious name, and they want you now to talk about what's the factors in applying a risk-based approach, and what's the process to be followed in applying a risk-based approach. The one is at the country level and the challenges that the regulators would face, along with the authority in implementing a risk-based approach via the regulators to its registrants and licensees, now down to the actual licensee / registrant. How do they implement it? What factors and what process?
Okay, I got you.
Okay. Now everybody has their own style of writing, and so every paper should not be the same. But the content for what the examiner is looking for should be there. It can be written differently, but when you read it, you can tell that the student understood the risk-based approach.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? So
Hi,
that's
Ms.
9 and
Rossler.
10. Go ahead.
I'm Princess Bethel. I missed 2 classes due to work, but you will get a first draft from me for my first number 1A by the weekend. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. I'll write up on it and then I'll let you know.
Thank you so much.
Okay, not a problem. Anyone else? I see Ava here, her picture, she's standing by a tree in a beautiful yellow dress. Not you, Princess, it's someone else in the yellow.
Yes, yes. Good evening, Ms. Acha.
Good evening.
Good evening, class. Good evening, everyone. Yes, I have a lot of catching up to do. The first week I was in the hospital with my mom, and the second week I had some work commitments that took me well into the next morning. So I'm just catching up now. And so I'm hoping to have the first drafts done by this weekend.
Okay, all right. That's fine. That's fine. You still have time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you still have time.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Silence. All right, so 9 and 10 next week. And then I'll give you your comments on what I receive. If I get them early, I'll be able to give you your comments before that. But I'll still share them with the class. Notice I just give you just the overall highlights. So you'll know from there what you need to do. Because what I want after that is then focus on the next question. And then after I leave you all, you can spend your time tidying it up. Yes, Sophie. Sophia.
Sounds good.
Okay, all right. Oh, and someone send me question 3, please, so I can pass it on to the next lecturer. Email it to me. Okay, so have a good evening.
Okay, have a blessed evening.
Yeah, and please read.
Yes.
All right. Good night.
Yes, David, you too read. And
Good
David,
night,
I'm
everyone.
okay, good night.
All right. All right. Good night.
Good night.